Okay, good morning, everybody. Let's go ahead and do a roll call of panel members and a sound check. I think we just, I see him coming back. I started to say as soon as I started talking, looks like we lost one. All right, Ivy Pfeffer, I'm here. Everybody hear me okay? If you could give me a thumbs up. Okay, great. All right, we have Greg Rogers,
I'm here.
Angela Kramers,
I'm here.
Dr. Williams.
Here.
Sound is good. Miss Newton? Okay, looks like we don't have Miss Newton on, and Mr. Baldwin. Mr. Baldwin, can you do a sound check for us?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you. Okay, we have Ms. Hyatt, our attorney, Ms. Webb, are both here?
Yes. Yes, ma'am.
Okay, just doing sound checks with everybody. Good deal. All right, so we will go ahead and call the meeting of the July 14th Charter Authorizing Panel to order. I'd like to welcome all of you. Thank you for being with us today. We will have, I think looks like we're having Miss Newton join us. So I'm going to pause for just a second. Miss Newton, let us know if you can hear us. Good morning, Miss Newton. Can you hear us? If you can unmute and we'll do a sound check, that would be great.
There.
Press this.
Miss Newton? Miss Webb, Toyce, can you hear us? Miss Webb, do you have someone who can try to do a sound check with Miss Newton and get in touch with her? Miss Webb, you're muted.
I'm sorry, I unmuted her, so she should be able to hear you.
Miss Newton, can you hear me?
She's unmuted, so it may be an issue with her computer. I will give her a call on the phone.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and get started with the meeting this morning. Just panel members, we appreciate you being here with us. Guests, we appreciate you as well. Just check your microphones and let's stay muted until time to talk, and we'll just all be patient with each other as we try to go through. And we have 3 of us here in the boardroom, so we're going to try to be able to respond to questions as well. And hopefully we will have a productive meeting. So we'll see if we can get Miss Newton with us here in just a second. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started with the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we had minutes from the May Charter Authorizing Panel meeting. If you've had a chance to review those, we will entertain a motion to accept the minutes or make revisions.
Move to approve.
This is Phil.
Okay, I have a move to approve the minutes from Mr. Baldwin.
Second.
And a second from Dr. Kramers. All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Okay, the motion is approved, and we will move on to the action agenda. And our first action agenda item is a request from the Fayetteville Virtual Academy. Ms. Webb, can you present this item to us, please?
Yes, ma'am. And Ms. Newton, I think, was getting tech support so that we could hear her. So they're working on that.
Okay. She can
The
hear
charter
us,
for
is
Fayetteville
that
Virtual
correct?
Academy is authorized in November of 2015. The school serves students in grades 4 through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 500 students. Assistant Superintendent Dr. Megan Slocombe is here today requesting an amendment to add grades K through 3 and to increase the enrollment cap.
Okay, and who do we have here speaking on behalf of Fayetteville? I have Dr. Megan Slocombe, is that correct?
That is correct.
Is there anyone in addition to Dr. Slocombe who would be speaking?
I don't think so.
Okay. Dr. Slocombe, I need to swear you in. Are you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. And you will have 20 minutes if you need that in order to make your presentation.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you, board members, for joining us and being here and allowing us to join via Zoom. This, for us in Northwest Arkansas, is an amazing time saver, so we really appreciate that. I am sure that you have heard and will continue to hear that there are new and changing approaches happening with COVID-19, and we are trying to meet that charge, be ready for that charge, and accept whatever education is going to look like. We're ready for the challenge. And so one of those deficiencies that we quickly saw was from surveying parents, talking with parents, meeting with groups. And as you know, for Ready to Learn, they've required that we had a committee in place. And we had put that committee in place prior to Ready for Learning requiring that. And in that committee, the outcomes that we heard consistently was we need some more options. We need some other things for our children to be able to access education. And so in this effort to try to truly provide a personalized experience, we quickly saw when we were looking at the survey data and then we were comparing that survey data with what was there, that the numbers that we had were simply not enough. Our enrollment is roughly 10,500, and the enrollment cap that we have in place is not enough. We also see that we need to serve students larger than grades 4 through 12. So as the times have changed, as the pandemic has helped to refine what our understanding is, our request to the panel is to allow us to increase that cap to 5,000, which is roughly half of our population. And in addition, allowing us to serve grades K through 12.
Okay, are you ready for questions, Dr. Slocombe?
Yes, ma'am.
All right. I'll go ahead and start with panel members who are here in the auditorium. Dr. Kramers, do you have questions?
I do. I would like to know a little bit more about your survey data and the responses you received back from the survey.
Yes. So at this point, we've only had about 44% to respond. And in that percentage, we are anticipating a potential virtual impact of about 25% of our students, of those that have responded. And our concern is, and as you know, anytime you do a survey, 100% would be amazing. We are trying to get the survey information out in multiple forms, in multiple ways, to make sure we reach all parents. The difficulty is some parents are not checking their emails. Some parents are not engaged in school at this time. It's that kind of understanding of summer. And so I think that's been one limitation to the survey. So our next step is to make home calls and to try to reach students directly. The difficulty with that is some of our student population, their numbers change frequently. And so the number we may have had on file, which may have been correct in May, in July is no longer correct. And the same thing with addresses. So we're trying to work through on a case-by-case basis to make sure we reach our students. We are providing devices to students, and we've allowed them to keep those through the summer so that they have enrichment opportunities. We're trying to provide some other options for them based on our AMI process that we ended the year with. And so our next step is trying to reach all of those parents. But our preliminary data tells us that we need some additional solutions in place.
And as you met with your parents groups for your Ready for Learning community group, what was the main rationale for wanting to do this as a charter versus just offering this as blended learning as a part of what, all districts are going to do within their own regular LEA versus doing it as a district conversion?
That's a great question. I think one of the things that sets Fayetteville Virtual Academy apart, Ms. Lever started the process with Fayetteville Virtual Academy, and she kind of passed the baton over to Ms. Kim Cook. And in that process, what I think you'll see if you look at the data that's there is this excellence in education. I think that it has since its inception, has done incredibly well academically. So parents who desire someone who has experience with virtual teaching, someone who has experience with virtual learning, may prefer that option. We are going to provide as many options as we can to parents, and we feel like this one needs at least the ability to serve all students K-12.
Thank you. And I'll just share right off the bat, I'm very concerned about the cap with such a significant increase to 20,000 from 5,000. So I think your survey results, if you look at 44% responding, but still that's 25%, that's an increase of, if I calculated that right, about 125 new students possible. And again, that's taking the blended learning and assuming that needs to be a part of a district conversion charter. So I do have multiple concerns on this one, both that, the strategy is to put this within the charter for blended learning, and then also the cap number. So I just would like to share that with the panel.
Yes, ma'am. And just to make sure, I think I may have been unclear, our current cap is 500. And we're asking to increase that to 5,000.
Oh, excuse me, I apologize. 500 to 5,000, yes. And that number is a significant increase from where it is existing.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Rogers, no questions, okay. Mr. Baldwin, do you have questions?
Yes, thank you. So the really two questions. The proposed cap of 5,000, that's a large increase from 500. Is that just a big number that would cover any potential increase in students? And I guess the question is, how did you arrive at that number? And then on the change in grade levels, describe your approach to the new grades that you'll have, which I guess would be K through 3 as far as pathing and curriculum.
Yes, sir. So the first question of the enrollment increase, the number of that 50% is if we have about half of our surveys in and about half of that number is interested in virtual learning. We're just trying to prepare ourselves, particularly for the people we have not heard from yet, for whatever reason. And we're going to allow parents to make that choice all the way up until school starts. So at that point, we want to make sure that we have an available seat. If there is an available seat that's needed, obviously we may have the cap and we may not use all of the cap that's there, but we would like the flexibility to be able to have that at about, it's a little less than half of our total percentage of student population. So if parents want to choose it, we'd like to offer it. The second prong for K-3 is we feel like we have some good data on our side from our elementary schools that exist right now. And so moving those into a virtual environment with virtual teachers, we've heard from many teachers who may have some precluding health impairments that will not allow them to return to campus for whatever reason. And so our plan was to hopefully transition them into some of those potential teaching spots as we've actually determined the particular numbers that we have at each grade level, K through 12.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
Dr. Williams, do you have questions?
Yes. I'm kind of tracking along with the others here that the current enrollment that I see is listed here in the support document is 221. What is the current enrollment at Fayetteville School District?
Roughly 10,500.
Okay, so you all are requesting an increase to 5,000. And do you all really expect that, or you just, I guess, what are you basing this off of?
Well, we're basing this off of our total population, but we're also basing this off of we have not had great response from parents yet. And I
Okay.
think that it may be the fact that we're sitting in July and parents just aren't in that mind frame yet. And so in terms of by the time we get to now August 24th, we just want to make sure that if a parent is requesting it, that we can actually enroll and place a child in the program. We also don't know the level of interest that will come across K-12, but we're seeing that parents have that level of interest. And as we continue to transition the traditional, we anticipate that our traditional is not going to look like our normal traditional. Our traditional is going to look like a varied approach where we're going to have some days where students attend and some days where students attend virtually. And that may not be a good option for all parents. So what we anticipate happening is even the respondents of the initial survey may come back and say, well, if this is how it's going to look, then I would prefer to do virtual. But we're trying to adhere to what the CDC, what ADH is recommending in terms of social distancing. We are not going to be able to build a building in the next 6 weeks. And so we're trying to navigate these new waters and just be as prepared as possible in the midst of this pandemic to serve kids and families in the best way possible. So this real request is truly about just flexibility and trying to answer requests that we've had from parents. And thankfully, we have had FEA. It does have a great track record. It had great leadership in the beginning, and it continues to have great leadership. So that definitely is on our side. And because of that, it has had a lot of interest. And we want to be able to say, yes, we will educate you. We do know that there are also students who may be interested that aren't served currently by Fayetteville that might choose by Fayetteville, and we want to be able to do that as well. So ultimately, those are our reasonings. We are kind of in uncharted waters in terms of school. We've referred to it as this is all going to be our first year of teaching. If you go back to your first year of teaching, that's exactly what this year is going to be like for everybody. We just don't know what those things are around the corner, and it's very difficult, or has been very difficult for us since March, and I would say for most districts, to plan for something. And this is actually one thing that we could plan for based on feedback to go, okay, at least the charter authorizing panel would support this, the state board would support this, and if you would like a seat in this placement, that if this fits your family best, then we're able to do it.
Okay, great answers. You also answered my other question I had, and that's just whether did you all expect all the seats to be taken up by Fayetteville students? Or you are going to open it up to other students? And I think I heard you say that there may be other students who are not part of the Fayetteville district that may want to take advantage of this, which I think is a great thing if that's the case.
Yes, sir. Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Ms. Newton, I know you were struggling with some of your tech issues. Are you able to communicate with us yet? Okay. Ms. Webb, is she still having some issues?
She's trying to call in, so I've given her the meeting ID and the call-in number.
Okay. All right.
But I don't hear her yet.
It may be a few more minutes before she can ask questions. Could she type her questions into the chat box?
Yes, I think she's been putting stuff in chat, so she should be able to do that.
Okay. So Ms. Newton, if you're struggling with your sound, if you want to type in a question in the chat box, then I can read that for everybody, if that would be okay. Ms. Hyatt, is that an acceptable solution?
I'm sorry, I was having trouble hearing you. Did you say for her to put her questions in the chat box? Is that an okay solution?
Yes.
Yes, that's fine.
Okay. All right. So we'll work with her to do that. Dr. Slocombe?
Yes, ma'am. I will hang tight until you're ready for me.
Okay. Could you, one of my questions, I'm thinking back to when this charter was approved, and one of the things that I remember it being was flexible options for parents even within the charter. So some students would be all virtual all the time. Some students might be virtual part of the time, but coming on site part of the time. And then there might be cases where there are students who might come to the Fayetteville Virtual Academy every day. So
Yes.
describe for us, please, now in thinking about the Ready for Learning model that Fayetteville will employ, what's going to be different about your Fayetteville Virtual Academy and what you're doing for all students? And is it necessary for students to actually move into an entirely different LEA, or will they have that option already available to them?
Absolutely. That is definitely the challenge that we have in place. I'm making sure you can hear me.
That may be, can you hear me now?
Yes. Ms. Newton, we can hear you.
Okay.
Okay, we're getting some really bad feedback though, so I think that line's going to need to be muted.
Dr. Pfeffer, would you like me to proceed or wait?
I'm sorry, Dr. Slocombe?
Yes, ma'am. I'm asking if I need to wait or proceed.
Hang on just a moment.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Okay. Ms. Newton, we're getting such bad feedback. Well, that may be better now. Okay, Dr. Slocombe, see if you can go ahead, please.
Yes, ma'am. So I think to your point is one of the beginning tenets of Fayetteville Virtual Academy was this idea of flexibility. And so one of our concerns is we may be offering some AP courses or some specialized courses online only. And because of this new flexible schedule that we've not done before, we've not had it in place before, we are anticipating that, as usual, we have several FHS students who enroll in FVA classes. And so we want to make sure that those options are still on the table. However, when a student does that, that is counted as a seat, if you will, a virtual seat on the Fayetteville virtual side if a student wants to access that. So we make sure that we balance that enrollment. So in one of the outcomes of our Ready for Learning process was parents still want options. Although we're going through a pandemic, they still want as many offerings as possible. And Fayetteville Virtual Academy does that in an extraordinary way to provide as many options as possible for kids. And so this request, again, goes back to the case of us not actually knowing what is coming toward us and trying to poise ourselves to be in the best position possible once we actually do hear from parents and we have the request, so that if they make that request, we can say, absolutely, here's your choices. You can do this, you can do this, you can do this. And we anticipate a lot of meetings, and we think that those are probably going to happen probably right before August 24th for parents that come to us finally. Maybe we've tried to reach them in multiple ways and we can't get them by email or phone call or mailed letter or home visit. It will allow us to get in touch with them so that they can tell us what their preference is, and we can get their child enrolled in the best fit for them.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, panel members, do you have any additional questions?
Dr. Pfeffer, this is Mary Claire. I wanted to clarify something. I apologize. I was having some trouble hearing the Zoom, but district conversion charters are limited to enrolling students that are within their school district. They're not open enrollment charters, so they're not permitted to enroll students that are not residents of their school district. And I just wanted to make sure that that was clear.
Sorry, correct, yes.
Okay, any additional questions, Dr. Kramers?
When is the district conversion up for renewal?
We will be coming back to you this year for
This year.
our 5-year renewal.
So just kind of what I'm thinking is, the numbers are still not fully known, and it's such a large increase. It almost seems like it might be a better approach to do a reasonable increase. And then, if the numbers are showing greater need, then that can be brought back forward as a request with the renewal when there's a better idea of numbers.
And one of the things that we discussed on our end is the question of that waiting, but the pandemic kind of changed us in a different direction. We are just making sure that we are as prepared as possible. Our goal is not to have 100% in FVA. However, if parents have that desire, we just want to be able to say yes if that's the best option for their family. So we're, again, trying to brace ourselves for what's coming toward us and making sure that we are as prepared as possible. And so that is, again, the reason for, one, the grade configuration change and also the enrollment increase request.
Okay, are there any other questions from panel members?
Good morning. Can you hear me now?
We can. How are you this morning?
Hello?
Good morning, Miss Newton.
Good morning. I'm sorry for the problems tonight. The reverberations causes you guys not to be able to communicate, so I'm on the phone.
Miss Newton, do you have any questions?
No, I don't.
Okay, panel, is there, does anybody want to make a motion regarding the request?
I move to approve the amendment request.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion to approve the amendment request and a second. Is there any discussion?
I'd like to see us consider a decreased enrollment number before approval, to decrease the cap for consideration.
Okay, so Dr. Kramers has asked the panel, she would like to see a decreased enrollment cap. Do you have a number in mind as far as the decreased request?
I mean, their survey results so far would add another 125, and of course, to their point, they don't know, but then even if you double it, you're at 1,000 versus 5,000. So I think the 5,000 cap is really too much. Half of the population of the school district, I think, is excessive.
Just to comment on that, my understanding, and correct me if I'm off base, when you all are talking there in the auditorium, there's a huge echo around it, so I'm missing some things here and there. But my understanding is the reason for the 5,000 is to allow the district the flexibility to be able to offer basically up to half their students by virtue in order to meet the, I'm just going to call it the COVID guidelines. So I don't know whether we should take away that flexibility during these times. Mm-hmm. So that's just my thought.
I agree. Under normal circumstances, Dr. Grant, I think I would agree with you. But right now, with Fayetteville not knowing how many students may, under these times, want to look at different options, and since they did, and that was a good question about when they come up for renewal. I think since they come up for renewal very soon, once we allow school to start, we see how many students have elected to go to that. We'll give the charter panel an opportunity to review and see if that cap is maybe a little too high. But right now, with the situation that we have everything in, I think if they're asking for flexibility to make sure that they're providing everything they can for their students and their parents of their students, then I'm hesitant to say that we need to change that cap right now.
Let me ask a question. I think I would support the flexibility too, given the extenuated circumstances we're all dealing with. If we approve the 5,000, does that approval, is that a permanent approval, or is that a temporary approval during COVID that we would reconsider at the point in time things get back to a more normal position?
This is Mary Claire. I think I can answer that for you. If you approve it, I believe that you wouldn't review it until their renewal hearing, but they are up for renewal this year. So I think that's December. Is that correct, Tracy?
That is correct.
So you will have an opportunity to review their enrollment cap at their renewal hearing in December.
That's good to know. I think that's a good option there to review it in December to see exactly what the enrollment looks like.
Okay, so we have a motion to approve the amendment request and a second. All of those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, let's do a roll call vote because I'm not sure that I'm hearing everybody. So I'm going to go, so Mr. Rogers,
Aye.
Dr. Kramers,
Nay.
Dr. Williams,
Aye.
Mr. Baldwin,
Aye.
Ms. Newton.
Aye.
Okay, the motion has been approved. Congratulations. And we will, I guess, see you all in December then, is that correct? To look at
Thank you, Dr. Pepper, and thank you, panel members. We appreciate your support as we enter this new territory. And thanks for your time.
Thank you for being here. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 2, which is for the an amendment request for Arkansas Virtual Academy. And Ms. Webb, can you present that for us?
The Arkansas Virtual Academy Charter was authorized in October of 2003. The charter expires in 2025. The school serves students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 3,000 students. Superintendent Amy Johnson is here today requesting an amendment to increase the enrollment cap.
Okay, we have Amy Johnson, and is there anyone else that will also be speaking?
Amy, is Kristen Allen also present, your assistant superintendent?
Yes, she is.
Okay, I'm trying to find both of you because I'm going to need to swear you in, and I'm going to need to make sure that I'm talking to the right people. Okay, there we are, Amy and Kristen. All right, if you'll raise your right hand, do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Miss Allen?
I do.
Okay, thank you. All right, you have 20 minutes if you need that much time to present your request.
Thank you. And I'm going to share my screen real quickly. There we go. Madam Chair, members of the panel, thank you so much for the opportunity to be with you today to voice this request. I saw you not very long ago. Last December, we presented to you for ARVA's renewal, and we really talked with you all about owning the academic outcomes, the direction that we had set for our students. And in that process, one of the things that we talked about was being committed to not necessarily what's easy, but what is right for our students. And I don't think any of us, when we were together in December, could have imagined what our spring would look like. I don't think we could have drummed that up in our wildest dreams. But we were blessed in that our longevity as a virtual school in the state of Arkansas did allow us to continue to focus on what is right for students. And we were able to continue our students' education through the school year. We did not stop our services for students. School was not canceled at ARVA. And so we were able to make some gains in the areas that we did outline for you in December academically. So we are coming today asking for an enrollment increase of 1,000 students. This would move our cap to 4,000 total. And while COVID is definitely the instigator for this, I think all of us have learned in this time that we definitely need to have an opportunity to be prepared for things that we can expect. And this cap increase not only allows us to do that, to nuance what might be ahead that we can't even predict with this current COVID environment, but also allows us to continue to provide a consistent virtual and experienced virtual education for the students of Arkansas. So we've based this need on our current enrollment. And right now, we actually pulled these numbers as of this morning. So we have 2,931 students who are currently active enrolled students with ARVA. Right now, also, we have 918 applications that are sitting what we call in the hopper. They're sitting in queue, students that are interested in coming to school with us in the fall. Now, normally, if we can think back to a normal time, it's hard for all of us, I think, right now. But on a typical enrollment season, families like to shop us, much like you would shop online. They might put an application with us, they're thinking about coming to us, and very much like we might put something in our shopping cart and then not come back, not all of our applications become actively enrolled students. Now, in years past, this sort of transfer rate or this take rate from application to active student has been around 40%. What we've seen through the month of June is that this transfer rate is at 76%. So people are not just shopping, they're choosing, and they're looking for that trusted virtual option for their students. So if you take that same assumption of 76% and you apply it to the applications that we have in queue, if we could sort of magically process all the applications today without the 3,000 cap, that would give us an estimated current enrollment today of 3,628 students. This is also keeping in mind that July and August are our highest yield enrollment months. And we feel like this is definitely going to be the case this year as families and students are making those choices. So I also want to make sure that I update you on our current academic progress, because I'm very excited to share some of the pieces that we've been able to accomplish, even just since we were with you in December. So because we were able to finish the school year, we did do end of year testing for our students. We utilized STAR 360 for beginning, middle, and end of year assessments for our students. And we were able to perform that test, have our students take part in that test at the end of the school year. So one of our first goals with our students, our first academic goals we put out in front of our staff and our team, was that we wanted to ensure that our students were making a minimum of 1 year's growth. That's our due diligence. That's a base expectation for every single school. We know that, and shared with you in December, that 62% of our students come to us in the bottom 2 levels of the ACT Aspire. And so we know we have more than a year's growth that we need to gain, but this was our starting spot for really honing in and focusing on our academics. We maintained a 22% improvement year over year for our students making a minimum of 1 year's growth. And so while we're not at 100%, we definitely are going to continue to move towards that goal. But we finished with 70% of our students making a minimum of 1 year's growth. And I actually dove into this a little bit more even yesterday, because I wanted to see what is the percentage of our students that made more than 1 year's growth, because we have that 62% that come to us off grade level. That data point is 64% of our students in ELA and 65% of our students in math made more than 1 year's growth. So we definitely feel the changes that we have made in the different steps and directions that we shared with the panel back in December have made a positive difference. The other portion of this data point that I'm also particularly proud of is that all of our demographic groups, race, ethnicity, free reduced lunch, all the different ways that we can slice and dice this data, all had the same growth scores. There was only a 2% variance in any of our demographic categories. So we are getting these results consistently across the board for our students. We have continued participation success in our testing, a 96% total participation for all of our online assessments last year, with 99% in grades K through 5. And I point that out because we know it's very important to ensure that that foundation is there. You might ask yourself, well, if it's an online assessment, how come it's not 100%? They just have to go to the computer and log in and take the test. We actually monitor and proctor our tests via Zoom. We have agreements with our parents that they can be in the room just long enough to ensure that their students, especially our elementary students, have logged in and successfully accessed the assessment, and then they're required to leave the room. Students test with their cameras on, with their microphones on, and if there's any concern, we also ask them to share their screen as they complete the assessment. So these are scheduled test times, and we do ask those students to come in and fulfill that responsibility. COVID did impact us a little bit with trying to get folks in, students in to be able to complete those assessments. Our face-to-face assessments have been in an average of the last several years of 99% participation or better. So we feel like we are establishing a culture of assessment and accountability with our students. One of the other things we talked about in December was really increasing teacher efficiency, effectiveness, and partnering in a more accurate and accountable way with our teachers and our families. So I'm happy to report teacher satisfaction continues to climb. Our teachers reported this spring 80% teacher satisfaction. And while, again, that might seem like an interesting statistic that it's not a bit higher, this is a 7-point scale survey. And in order to be counted in this 80%, teachers have to score us at a 6 or 7. So truly what we're saying here is that this is 80% of our teachers that are highly satisfied with their employment and experience at ARVA. This is up from 76% last year, which was my first spring as head of school, and then up from 56% the year prior. We have a successful teacher return rate. 97.7% of our teachers are returning. And as I know you're aware, the more experienced teachers have, especially in a virtual environment, the better return we have on student growth. And then additionally, family satisfaction is also rising. This is the same 7-point scale survey. They have to score us a 6 or 7 to be counted as satisfied as a family with their experience. And that's up from 76% last year and then 75% the year before. I also wanted to take just a quick moment to highlight our continued partnerships. This is something we shared with the panel last December and something that you all spoke very positively about that we were making efforts toward. The minute that COVID hit and started to really impact education, our teachers sort of really without even any requests started reaching out to hold Zoom training sessions for their peers. We're very used to Zoom. It was interesting for me to log into a panel meeting today and not be in person with you and see you all in what we lovingly call the Hollywood Squares, because that's sort of our environment. And so our teachers reached out and began to hold Zoom sessions with other teachers, not only in our state, but across the country. We held Zoom sessions for teachers in New York and California and helped teachers understand the nuance of Zoom, how to engage students through Zoom, and all the different tips and tricks through the platform. We've also collaborated with different portions of the ADE for how to move particular pieces virtually. We had a reach out from Yvonne Green in special education, really asking about how do we hold IEPs virtually? How do we assess students? How do we fill the gap for therapies when we can't see students face to face? And then most recently, our district testing coordinator sort of had an open door policy with the department for how we virtually monitor and proctor assessments. How do we do that with fidelity and validity? We're currently partnering with some districts for back to school training. Jacksonville North is one that we have in the works right now to really pair our teachers. We really want to be there for teachers. Virtual instruction is hard work. It's very different work. Students attack virtual education differently. And so we really want to help nuance that with teachers. We're not doing any platform training, anything like that. Our platforms are totally different. But what we are doing is pairing our teachers and administrators to be able to have grassroots, sort of granular conversations about what works and what doesn't. We're in an agreement with UALR to house some of their clinical and field service observations, their student teachers. Not only do they need situations where their teachers can consistently complete those requirements for 10 weeks or more, but they also are recognizing the importance of their students understanding virtual education. And what we've really tried to do is just be open to even any one-off opportunities, collaborations, opportunities to talk about how we nuance virtual for the success of students. One of the things that I think is very important for the panel to know is that we do this for any school, any student in the state. We're looking at Arkansas students as our students, whether they're sitting in our seat or not. This is an interesting time, and we want to do everything we can as one of the longest standing virtuals, the legacy that we have in this environment, to really be able to positively impact any student across the state, whether they're sitting in our school or whether they're sitting in their brick and mortar district. So finally, just a quick reminder, the ask here is 1,000 students to a total cap of 4,000. Again, we want to be able to house students that are coming to us in this current environment, but also make sure that we have the ability to stay ahead of anything that might be coming that we can't predict. And I will honestly tell you, because we can't predict this, I don't know. You may see me again in the fall. We don't know how this is going to go, but we do want to make sure that we step it out wisely and carefully, that we're strongly prepared for the students that are coming to us to ensure continued academic success. So if you all have questions.
Okay, yes, we will proceed on to questions. So I'll start with Dr. Kramers again.
Thank you. I think the cap increase request is, more reasonable based on the numbers you've run, the surveys you've done, the applications you already have in the queue. So that part is, so I think my only remaining thing would be, the student performance. I'm glad that you presented the data on some of the STAR 360 assessments that you've done that is showing some growth, because that was my main concern of increasing the cap when there is a report card that it's not where it should be on student performance. And so can you just share just a little bit? I know that that's your current assessments that you're receiving, but just in general, is there anything new also that you're implementing for student performance with this? What changes will you have? You're going to increase the enrollment cap. Does this increase, of course, the number of teachers and kind of the services that will also expand to support the students coming in larger numbers?
Absolutely. So in light of the increase, what our plan is basically we're going to sort of in triage fashion, if you will, each week, just look at the enrollments, how they're coming in, what grade levels they're coming in, I think is also something that we're very keenly aware of right now. We have a higher enrollment right now at the elementary level than we do at the middle school and high school level, which is a little bit unusual for us. And so one of the things, to your point, Dr. Kramers, is that we understand about our elementary students is that we're not just teaching our elementary students, we're also training their learning coaches. And so we have increased the preparation and the week by week training and partnership with our learning coaches to be prepared. Rolling out staff, we will continue to maintain the exact same student-teacher ratios that we did last year. So this will require adding staff as the enrollments come in. Our goal is to add those systematically as we see those ratios sort of shift and add. What we don't want to do is add 50 new teachers on all today and sort of overwhelm everyone. So we want to roll that out systematically as our enrollments begin to uptick. And then what we'll do is continue to create that cycle of training for our new teachers, partnering them with our experienced teachers. Academically, and I just had this conversation with our admin team this last week, our expectation is that there will only be the same growth and better for the coming year, even with more students in tow. And so several things that we're doing and creating and continuing to innovate. We're utilizing cross-content PBL. We're starting that in each building level. So we'll have cross-content PBL built out, project-based learning built out in grades kindergarten 3, 6, and 9 for the coming year. And then we'll start to consistently roll those to those next grade levels throughout the course of the next 3 years. We're doing a more fine-tuned, we started this last year, circle up with our teachers. Our teachers actually meet with their principals quarterly to review their data, to review their progress, to set goals for the next quarter. So it's a tight observation. Our administrators completed over 1,200 observations of our staff last year. And that's spread out over about 5 administrators. So we are consistently in classrooms, consistently looking at what's happening in those classrooms. Our teachers have a tight spiral of looking at student data. We started PLCs last year. That was highly successful for teachers to be able to come in and look at their data, compare their common assessment data in the same courses and grade levels, try to figure out where the gaps are if one teacher's students are doing slightly better than the other. And then we're also creating a tight spiral of intervention for our students where we see that they're not mastering. We're also introducing our families this fall through an app, believe it or not. We've created an app that houses each grade level's standards in I can statements. And we're releasing this app to our parents and students, and they're going to be able to give us feedback on how comfortable they feel with their mastery of their standards. And this is going to be starting again a 3-year progression to roll out to more standards-based feedback and grading for our students so that we know where our students are in their mastery at all times. So I could talk to you a very long time about some of the things that we're doing because we're excited about it, but we're very fine-tuned on the academic success of our students, even with the increase of 1,000.
Thank you.
Dr. Johnson, I want to follow up then. So you're anticipating quite a large enrollment increase in the elementary grades. Is that what I heard you say?
Yes, so we're at 900 in the elementary right now, which is up for us. It's one of the highest elementary enrollments that we've seen. We don't really know how to estimate whether that's going to sort of plateau out if our elementary parents were more eager and making decisions earlier. But it is something that we're definitely gauging ourselves for and supporting,
So
providing more.
in your description of all of your instruction and planning, I didn't hear you talk about your curriculum alignment to the science of reading and the assurance that you're fully prepared for an increase in a number of elementary students, that if moving to a virtual environment is going to be a new thing for them, that there'll need to be a lot of additional support. So I just wanted to get some affirmation that that is something that you all are preparing for if your data are showing an increase in elementary. So just something very brief about that.
Yes, so you were breaking up just a little bit, but I think I got the gist of the question. So if I don't hit on all the elements, please circle me back. So we are completing all of our training for science of reading. We're actually utilizing BrainSpring and Phonics First training we found that to be highly successful with our dyslexic students. And so we're using their structures to not only satisfy some of our science of reading pieces, but also to train teachers that have a more minimal requirement for science of reading. We found that the structures training has been very helpful all the way up into even our upper levels. And so definitely we are completing that. Kristen, do you want to add anything? Kristen oversees our science of reading. She's a former elementary principal, so she is all about our science of reading. Do you want to add any detail about those trainings and the things that are happening even this summer?
Our teachers were following Pathway D, and all of them are finishing up their training again this summer so that they're prepared. I'm currently going through the assessor training and just completed the first phase of the assessor training and working, already have the second phase scheduled. So we're getting everybody up to speed. We have a RISE trainer in our district who's also working as we get new teachers who are coming on board who may not have the preparation prior. But we really have seen, just like Ms. Johnson said, just high success with structures and phonics first that BrainSpring provides. And so we are training our teachers through that. And then also the upper levels who have students who are struggling with reading, trying to really identify what those gaps are and fill them based on those needs.
Thank you. Mr. Rogers, do you have questions? No, ma'am. Okay. Dr. Williams?
No questions.
Okay. Mr. Baldwin?
No questions.
Ms. Newton?
No questions.
Okay. Excuse me, we don't have any additional questions, or do we have additional questions? Okay, so no additional questions. Is there, are there any questions just in general from the panel? Okay, if not, we have, I can accept a motion regarding Arkansas Virtual Academy.
I move approval of the charter's application for increase.
Okay, I have a motion from Ms. Newton. Is there a second?
Second.
A second from Dr. Kramers. Is there any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Okay, I don't think I heard all of, I'm going to do a roll call because I don't think I heard from everybody. And can we do a stop sharing on the screen because it helps me to be able to see more of the panelists?
Yes.
We're still seeing the
So sorry.
presentation. Thank you, that's helpful. Okay, I'm going to go through and make sure. Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Ms. Newton?
Aye.
Dr. Kramers?
Aye.
Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Mr. Baldwin?
Aye.
Okay, thank you. The motion passes, and congratulations. Thank you for giving us your time today and for your presentation. Okay, we're going to go ahead and move on to item number 3 on the action agenda, which is a request for the Don Tyson School of Innovation. Ms. Webb, will you present this item to us?
Yes, ma'am. The Don Tyson School of Innovation is a district conversion charter that was authorized in November of 2015. The current charter expires in June of 2021. Currently, the school serves students in grades 6 through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 2,000 students. Springdale School District Attorney Kendra Clay is here today requesting an amendment increase of the enrollment cap.
Okay, good morning, Ms. Clay. Are you going to be our only speaker on for this petition today? Let's see, Ms. Clay, can we do a sound check?
I'm here. Thank you all. It's good to be here.
Okay.
As Ms. Webb mentioned, I'm Kendra Clay. I'm General Counsel for the district, and I'll be presenting most of the presentation. I do have a couple others here if questions come up and I need their assistance.
Okay, do we need to be swearing in people who are going to be additional speakers, Ms. Hyatt?
You don't need to swear in Kendra since she's an attorney, but
Correct.
if there are going to be other people speaking or answering questions, it would be my preference if you would just go ahead and swear them in.
Okay, so Ms. Clay, if you think you'll have additional help there, can we identify those people and swear them in?
We can do it either way. I don't anticipate really needing help, but if you want to go ahead and swear the people who are here with me, that is not a problem either. I have Dr. Marcia Smith here beside me in person, and then Dr. Shay Hopper is out there in Zoom land as well.
Okay, let's do it just in case, and that way we don't have to stop in the middle of the presentation. Okay, so Dr. Smith and Ms. Hopper, if you would raise your right hand. And do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
No.
Dr. Hopper, I think you're muted.
I do, yes.
Okay, and I think we heard Dr. Smith as well. All right, thank you. And Ms. Clay, you may begin your presentation.
Okay. I have a very brief slide deck to share with you just to kind of guide some of our conversation. I'm here today to ask for an amendment request for the Don Tyson School of Innovation. Normally when the district comes to present anything about DTSOI, we like to show off the amazing things that are happening there. And eventually we would like to do that with this group again. We're opening phase 2 of construction that will allow the brick and mortar DTSOI to serve a larger number of students this fall in person. But the purpose of the request today is really just to accommodate virtual students. You'll see in your packet that the district initially asked for the enrollment cap to be increased to 23,000. I'm sure some people may have thought that was a typo. It was not. When we initially submitted our information, we were, like most school districts, still trying to figure out just where we stand as far as serving students during the COVID-19 pandemic. That 23,000 number basically represented the ability to serve all of our students 100% virtually if the need came to that. We don't think that that need will be there. Where 100% of our approximately 22,000 students would want 100% virtual instruction. So the ask today would instead be to increase the enrollment cap to 8,000. I do want to share this graphic with you. I think it will guide some of your thinking on how Springdale School District intends to serve its students under the Ready for Learning model this fall. And this graphic is a district approach. This is not specific to Don Tyson School of Innovation, but I'll show you where DTSOI fits into this graphic. So you'll see on the left that the district will be open for on-site instruction at all of its 31 buildings beginning on August 24th. That means just what you would think it means. Students are coming to school, learning is taking place on-site. The middle column represents what we are calling our version of blended learning. Under the blended model, parents will have the opportunity to choose whether their students attend on-site instruction on Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, or on Tuesday and Thursday. So on the days that those students who are not on-site, when they are not on-site, they will be doing remote learning at home on their days of choice. That we are leaving that to parent choice. But we know with both of those on-site and blended models that if closure happens due to COVID-19, so if you'll kind of walk down the chart with me with that blue bar, both the on-site and the blended model will shift to remote teaching and learning in the district. So that is the plan that will be implemented at what we call our traditional schools. So every school in the district except for Don Tyson School of Innovation. And then that brings us to the right-hand column where students would be served 100% virtually. DTSOI has been offering virtual instruction for grades 6 through 12 well before the COVID-19 pandemic. So when the need began to present itself that the virtual instruction would need to be more widespread and need to encompass all grades rather than just grades 6 through 12. DTSOI was the natural fit to fill that need within the district. So you'll see in the virtual column, those students will attend school 100% virtually, and their teaching and learning will not change regardless of any closures due to COVID-19. So just some brief information before I'll answer questions. With the phase 2 of construction, DTSOI will be serving approximately 2,000 students in person. So even if the COVID-19 pandemic had not occurred, we would have been back in front of you asking for an increase of enrollment cap just to accommodate the in-person students that the new phase of construction is able to serve. For historical purposes, last year, VIA, which is the Virtual Innovation Academy, so that's the 100% virtual program housed at DTSOI, served approximately 200 students. And so far this year, we have approximately 500 students who have shown interest in having 100% virtual instruction through VIA. Now, I will say, just based on some conversation that you had earlier with Fayetteville, we have not surveyed our parents yet. A couple of reasons for that. We want to make sure that we're able to get out the most complete information that we can to our families in all languages that reaches all of our families. And so that has been an additional challenge that we're working through. We also know that with several weeks before school starts, families may not be quite ready to make that determination. So we don't have a solid projection of what the enrollment will be, but we do want to have the increase in enrollment so that any of our Springdale families that want to have their students attend school 100% virtually would have that option. One thing I think it's important to, although the 8,000 enrollment cap seems high, again, 2,000 of those students are actually in-person brick and mortar students who will attend Don Tyson School of Innovation in person. And also, like Fayetteville, our charter is up for renewal this year. So this is basically a one-year request that allows us an opportunity to serve our students how their families choose. The school choice deadline has already passed. So now we're just dealing with students who are already Springdale students and making sure that we're able to have the flexibility that we believe the state has asked us to in serving our families. So again, the request would be to increase the enrollment cap to 8,000, and I'll be happy to answer any questions that you have.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Clay, and appreciate the presentation. And I think, I know whenever I had looked at the original application, I did have some questions, but getting to see your entire plan, I think is very helpful for all of us. And I think in a lot of ways, your district has already taken the step with this School of Innovation and learned a lot about what blended learning already is. So I think that journey you've already been on is going to help serve you well when looking at your district as a whole. So that's going to be helpful. I'll start with Mr. Baldwin to see if there are questions.
I have no questions.
Dr. Williams?
Yeah, just for a point of clarity, the 8,000 enrollment cap, is that only for virtual or is that for the school itself?
That is for the school itself. So that would be the combination of virtual and in-person. So if you take out the approximate 2,000 that will be in person, that leaves about 6,000 virtual. But we believe an $8,000 person enrollment cap would allow us the flexibility to move between in person and virtual. I will say the building with phase 2 has a capacity, not enrollment cap capacity, but just building capacity of about 2,200. So that will give you some idea of what a maximum in-person and virtual ratio would be.
Mm-hmm. Do you all plan on, now the virtual students don't necessarily have to attend to be at the building itself, that's correct?
That's correct.
Okay, so are you all just allowing students to transfer from, Springdale High or Harbor High to the School of Innovation? How does that movement work?
Sure. So we asked them to complete an intent to enroll form, and then it's relatively easy to transfer. We do ask students to commit to a semester, and we have done this pre-COVID as well, just because once a student is doing work virtually, it's not always seamless to transition back to a traditional school environment in the middle of a semester.
Okay. Thank you.
Ms. Newton, do you have any questions?
I'm sorry, did you say me?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. No question other than I'm trying to understand again the initial proposed cap of 23,000. What was that? How did you explain that before?
Yes, ma'am. We initially put that enrollment cap because that would have allowed any of our almost 23,000 students to attend 100% virtually. So the district has a little over 22,000 students enrolled, and so it would have taken care of everyone if needed.
And Ms. Newton, I can help with that because I think that prior to districts receiving all the additional details that have come out regarding Arkansas's plan for Ready for Learning, I think that there were some unknowns early on, and districts like Springdale that already had models implemented with the availability for virtual learning, they were thinking ahead. And I think now that there have been more and more things that have been established with Arkansas Ready for Learning and the flexibility that districts are going to have to be able to provide virtual learning as a component to their overall blended learning. I think that that has changed a little bit and maybe affected the way Springdale now needs to plan. Is that correct, Ms. Clay?
That is a good way to describe it, yes.
Okay. So,
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Rogers, do you have any questions?
No, ma'am.
Dr. Kramers?
No questions.
No questions? Okay. Panel, any other thoughts or discussion before we make a motion?
Yeah, yes, just one quick point of clarity. In the waiver document, there's 23,000 still listed there on the I believe on the amendment request. So we are looking at this to be approved for 8,000. Is that correct?
That is correct, but I will let Ms. Hyatt respond as far as if there's anything that would need to be done differently.
So as long as, excuse me, as long as Kendra has said on the record that they wish to change their amendment request from the 23,000 to, I believe she said 8,000, but maybe I have that wrong, I'm sorry. It'll be fine if you approve it as amended during the hearing today.
Okay. Well, if we're ready for a motion, I just make the motion to approve the amendment to increase to 8,000.
Second.
I'm sorry, there was a motion to approve the amendment request for an enrollment cap increase to 8,000, and is there a second?
There's second.
Okay, motion by Dr. Williams, second by Ms. Newton. All those in favor? No, we'll do a roll call, so I don't have to back up. All right, Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Okay, Mr. Rogers?
Aye.
Mr. Baldwin?
Aye.
Ms. Newton?
Aye.
And Dr. Kramers?
Aye.
Okay, congratulations. The motion has passed. Thank you for being with us, and we appreciate everyone for hanging in with us.
Thank you.
Okay, Are we, panel members, are you all okay to move on to the next agenda item, or do you need a short break? I think I'm getting thumbs
I'm
up.
okay.
I'm good.
All right, well, we're going to go ahead and move to the next agenda item, and this is a request for Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy. Ms. Webb, will you?
The Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy is an open enrollment charter that was authorized in 2012. The school currently serves students in grades K through 12 with a maximum enrollment of 1,500 students. The current charter will expire in 2028. Superintendent Stephen Gast, as well as Swan Provenza, the Director of Classical Education, and Dennis Felton, Director of Innovation and Expansion, are here to present the request and answer any questions.
Okay, I'm checking to see, do we have everyone on the Zoom with us that's going to be speaking for Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy?
Yes, in fact, I'd like to add a couple of other names, just in case there is a question that they want to go ahead and answer. I'd like to include Mr. Curtis Shack, Ms. Rhonda Bradford, Ms. Katie Stevens, and Ms. Marla Pearson to better answer any specific questions that the panel may have.
Okay, so will all representatives and anyone speaking in opposition please stand to, well, it says stand to receive the oath. Ms. Hyatt, do we need to have everybody stand up that's there too?
I think they can do it seated. I'm sure that's fine.
Okay, I didn't think we had been having everyone stand up, but if you will, raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do. I do.
I do.
Are we good on the record, Ms. Hyatt?
I think there are 4 people in one room, and I only heard one I do from that group. So maybe if you guys could say I do separately so we can hear it.
And Dennis.
I do.
I do.
I do.
I do.
And I did.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right. Ivy, I thought you were just going to make us all stand up to exercise a little bit.
Well, you were the first group that I saw in a room, and that just, threw me for just a minute here. So this is not exactly easy to do remotely when you have several.
No, and I do appreciate, again, my name is Steve Gast. I'm the superintendent for responsive education as well as for Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy. And what I'd like to do is just very briefly introduce the individuals that were present today and their title so that the panel has an idea of who exactly is representing our leadership team today. We're going to have Ms. Susan Provenza, who will be doing the majority of the presenting for the campus. She is our Director of Classical Education, as well as the Campus Director for Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy. Mr. Curtis Shack is our Executive Director of Operations. Mr. Dennis Felton is our Director of Expansion and Innovation and the State Director for our premier high schools. Ms. Rhonda Bradford is our Federal Programs Director and Director of Leadership and Staff Development. Ms. Katie Stevens is our Director of Finance, and Ms. Marla Pearson is our Director of Special Programs and Special Education. So we have all of them available and present in case there are specific questions that the panel will have after our presentation. So at this time, I would like to turn the presentation over to Susan Provenza, and she is going to share her screen and talk a little bit more about our amendment and some of the information about Northwest Classical Academy. We are excited to have this opportunity to speak in front of you. This is a very highly successful campus, and based on the priority of our state to want to replicate very high performing campuses, we feel this is a wonderful opportunity to meet the demand that we have for this particular brand of school in Northwest Arkansas. So Ms. Provenza, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Can everybody hear me okay, first of all? Hopefully so. Okay. Thank you very much for hearing us today. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about our expansion plan. A brief history of our campus. We opened in 2013 with K-8. We are the only classical academy that is tuition-free, open enrollment, and a public classical charter school here in Arkansas. And we were created as a result of collaboration between Responsive Ed and Hillsdale College Barney Charter School Initiative. We've grown over the years to be K-12. And this past year, we had over 840 students in our K-12 program. We have had 3 graduating classes so far. And we have had fantastic results with those students. They have gone on to do great things, 100% college acceptance for all of them. This past year, we had 17 seniors who earned over $1.5 million in merit-based scholarships. We had 2 National Merit semifinalists that both went on to be National Merit finalists. We've been an achieving school and district since we opened. We have A report cards. We've been recognized by OEP for outstanding school in multiple areas. And because we are classical and we believe in the whole child, we've had some amazing athletic achievements as well. We currently have the 1A triple jump state champion at our school. And we've also had all-state choir members. So a lot of great achievements that we have had so far. Our current enrollment, you can see here with this chart, for the 1920 school year, we had 846 students. And so we were at capacity in all of our grade levels in K through 7. And then we were under that just a little bit in 8 through 12. Our waiting list in May for the 1920 school year was still at 610 students. So even at the end of the year, we still had families who were applying and wanted to be a part of what we're doing here at Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy. For the 2021 school year, we had an open application period that lasts December and January. And during that time, we just were flooded with applications for families who want to be a part of this. You can see that chart there for the different grade levels and how many applications we were receiving during that time. We had 848 students who applied for 87 available openings for our 2021 school year, just during that open application period. We have had additional families apply even after the application period. And so they have been added to the wait list as well. So we have a huge demand here in Northwest Arkansas from families who appreciate what we're doing, who want to be a part of what we're doing. And that's really why we're coming to you today. Our current wait list for the 2021 school year is at 810 students. We have a wait list in K through 6 at all of those grade levels for students who want to be a part of it. So what do we want to do? We have done some remodeling here at our campus. We've expanded into an adjacent building right here on the property as well. But we really do not have the room to accommodate all the families who want to do what we're doing here. And so our goal is we would like to open a K-8 campus in Rogers. We would then like to convert our current Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy to a K-8 at the existing location with doing some renovations. And then we'd like to open a 9-12 campus on the Rogers property, in which both the K-8 in Bentonville and the Rogers K-8 can feed into. So in terms of looking at, kind of what we're thinking there with the campus configurations for Bentonville, for 20 through 24, stay at our current location. But then as we are able to, we would like to turn it into a K-8 campus and then transition that 9-12 over to the high school on the Rogers property. In Rogers, what we would like to do is purchase land and build a K-8 campus, complete with a gym area as well, and then open that K-8 building. And then we've got kind of 2 plans going here. We've got a conservative plan where we would pay attention to our enrollment numbers, increase those 7th and 8th grade sections so that we can fully fill up that high school, and then open the 9-12 in 24-25. The aggressive plan would be, if we've already got all of those enrollment numbers, to go ahead and work toward opening that 9-12 building a year earlier. As you guys know, Northwest Arkansas really continues to lead the state in growth. We've still got 1,000 people per month moving to this area of the state. So we have a huge influx of families, and so many of them want to be a part of what we do. So our goal then is to continue to provide an open enrollment public classical education to additional families of Northwest Arkansas who really desire to be a part of what we're doing at our school, and to be able to have facilities to match the stellar education that we currently have taking place at our school.
Very good. And that concludes the presentation. And Susan, what I would ask you to do is maybe to unshare your screen early here so that we can, everyone has the opportunity to be able to see everyone. There we go. So we're open for questions now from the panel. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I'll go ahead and start with Dr. Williams to see if you have questions.
Yes, thank you. Excellent presentation. Given that presentation, my question is first, what is your amendment request? Is it just the enrollment cap, or is it, there was a lot of information that came through on your presentation. So if you could kind of succinctly just state what is your enrollment, what is your amendment request, I guess?
So the amendment request is to increase the enrollment cap, but it's also to be able to move a campus or to build a campus in Rogers on property that we're currently looking at wanting to purchase. The property is contingent upon panel approval. We didn't want to go ahead and purchase 20 acres of land and then come to the panel. We wanted to make sure that we did it properly and did it in the right fashion. So the amendment is twofold. It is both to increase our cap and then to put a campus on the Rogers property.
Okay. I have a question for council in-house. Do we need an approval to build a campus? Or just the enrollment, the improvement of the enrollment that will lead to the campus?
Essentially, what they're asking for is for a license. So yes, they do have to have your approval because they're adding an additional campus. So when you originally approved their charter, you approved them for a K-12 single site location. So now they'd be adding a new location and be adding essentially a different campus. So that's a license request. So it's the increase in enrollment and it's the license. And then once they decide that they want to purchase property, of course, they will follow the rules about getting debt approved by the Secretary of Education.
Okay, that's very helpful. I was trying to figure out, I knew there was another process to follow this and I couldn't quite get it all aligned here.
Well,
yeah, and Dr. This will also be, it'll all be under the same LEA. In other words, we're not asking for another charter school. It all will fall under the NWACA charter. Okay, outstanding. Thank you.
and Dr. Williams, I think I'm glad you asked that question, because I think my assumption when the meeting was scheduled, it was that we were having this because of COVID and the need to start looking at some enrollment increases because of waiting lists with some of the virtual charters. And I was a little unsure as I started reading and now seeing a request for a new campus. So in some ways, I have a little discomfort with trying to do this virtually, trying to do this at this time. So I'm going to just throw that out for the panel, that to me, this just feels like a whole lot more than what I was prepared for us to review today, but I might be alone in that. Okay, Mr. Baldwin, do you have questions?
My question would be, as it relates to the increased enrollment cap, how did you guys come up with the 2,500 proposed cap? And is that enough? We've seen much larger requests than this, and I guess I'm just curious if this is enough.
That's a great question. And I guess, we wanted to be somewhat conservative in the numbers and looking at how big we wanted the campus to be and how big a facility we wanted to build. We thought that this would keep us well within the range of students and staff that we would feel comfortable with on that particular, in this particular district. So again, we were trying to be conservative there and keep within what we believed would be the wait list and how many sections in each grade level that we would be able to provide.
Okay, thank you.
And Dr. Pfeiffer, I would also like to bring up that one of the main reasons for the amendment was we have found this particular piece of land, and the seller of the property has kind of accelerated our timeline as far as wanting to go ahead and sell that. This particular company has students that do go to and attend our school, and they are offering us a piece of land at a price that we generally could not match. If we were just in the general market looking for land up in Bentonville, it's at a premium, and they're quite proud of it. And so one of the reasons for asking for the acceleration is because of the fact that it was requested to move that forward, that if we were not going to purchase this property, the seller wanted to be able to start moving ahead with offering it out on the open market. So that was another reason for us to request to come to y'all with the approval.
Thank you. Ms. Newton, do you have questions?
I don't, thank you.
Mr. Rogers?
So the total overall increase that you're just asking for is 1,000,
That is correct.
but you're wanting to start a new campus right now. But
No, sir, we wouldn't be starting the new campus now. We would be building the new campus. We're pretty much at capacity in our current building. And so the 810 kids that we've currently got on our wait list, there's no place for them to put them. And so the additional 1,000 students really is the ask for when we build a new campus, being able to populate that with students.
and that new campus won't be till 2022?
Well, yes, depending on how we build, the camp would start to be popular, yes, in 22, 23, correct?
Correct.
Yes. But again, this is all contingent on the purchase of that land.
So for the upcoming school year, 2020, 2021, how many students do you anticipate serving?
At our current campus in Bentonville, we're going to have about between 920 and 940 students for the 2021 school year.
But you're wanting an increase to your cap to 2,500 total, is that correct?
Correct.
But so the 848 that are on the wait list, are they going to be able to be served in 2020, 2021, or are they going to have to wait until a new campus is built?
Right. Those are the families that definitely are interested in what we do and want to be a part of this. But currently with our configurations, we don't have the ability to serve them. So we would need an additional K-8 campus to be able to serve those families.
Mr. Rogers, do you have additional questions?
Yeah, but I don't know how to, I'm not comfortable right now. I don't. This isn't what I thought we were looking at expansion of caps because of COVID and trying to serve students, and
Yeah, I thought there was
now we moved
immediate
into a
need.
whole new school. And so I don't know. Right now I just have concerns about moving that fast with it.
Dr. Kramers, do you have questions?
No, mostly comment. The amendment request did check that they were asking for an expansion of a new campus. So I felt like on the amendment request, it clearly marked that. So I had taken that into consideration with the enrollment increase, which was reasonable, and they have a wait list. So I think, if they can't serve them for the new campus, I think they're basically looking for the land so they can work on expansion. They can serve students where they're at with a modest request on the cap enrollment. So I feel like they were forthright in their request, just from my perspective, because it clearly said they wanted a new campus expansion because they already see, like the other cases, they're basing it on projecting. And they didn't even have full survey results, where here at least, they have a wait list, there's high demand, and they're trying to come up with solutions to work toward that. So I felt pretty good about about the request. I did have a question, actually I did. On the budget pieces, in year 2, you added in about $500,000 in administrative overhead, and I'm wondering if that's related to the future new campus that you anticipate that administrative overhead that's such an increase, if you would just share a little bit about that.
I'll join in.
Hi, Katie Stevens, Director of Finance. The additional item in the budget in year 2, traditionally you would see that every year. However, in year 1, our management fees, we are budgeting to waive those in the first year due to the startup cost that we will have in the first year. The second year, we have budgeted to collect a portion of those fees. Do you have like additional questions, or are you just wanting to know what those are our management fees to our management organization?
Right, just clarification on the difference of, year 1, 0 administrative overhead, and then year 2, over $500,000.
Yes. Our management organization first makes sure that campus needs are met prior to billing us for those. And in year 1, we have those costs to start up the campus, those one-time furniture, IT, et cetera.
Well, those are listed as separate line items, but you're saying specifically administrative overhead. So that's more of the management company, and you said some of that was waived year 1.
What she said.
Ask her to repeat it.
Can you repeat that, please?
I was just saying, you mentioned the furniture, but I think that's a separate line item. So I was just, are you saying the administrative overhead year 2 is kind of partial payment back because year 1, some of those administrative costs were waived? Is that correct?
No, year 2, in year 1, we are anticipating that those costs would be waived. Actually, ones that would be incurred in year 2. So it's not carrying over.
Okay.
Is that what you're asking?
Yes, yes. Thank you for that clarification.
You're welcome.
Okay, do any of the other panel members have any additional questions?
No, just a comment, as I looking at the wait list and so forth, it seems like there's the request is reasonable. I was somewhat, when I go back and look at the amendment, it does mention the fact of add a new campus is listed there. And one domino has to fall before the other. Living here in Northwest Arkansas, I do know that enrollment is steadily increasing we tend to refer to them as the Big Five, but we may have to start adding Pea Ridge to the Big Five and make the Big Six the way they're growing also. So I think there is a need. I think they're moving in the right direction. My question would be probably more internal. Could there have been a better way to call out the addition of the campus in this process, or is it just, my oversight and just not paying a close enough attention to the types of amendments that's listed? When I go back, I see added new campus address is done, Dotson Road, undeveloped in the Rogers School District, but it did not register with me that we were talking about a building a school. So is there anything different that we could do to make sure that that's highlighted for ourselves?
Sure, we can look at changing the format of the application.
Ms. Webb, I would agree, and I'm going to apologize to the panel because I would also have probably pushed for us to try to have more people here in person, because to me there is a difference, and I think part of it was just because of an early conversation that I had. I thought we were making an exception to hear for CAP enrollments due to COVID and needing to act quickly to help schools. And not that this isn't a worthy consideration, it absolutely is, but I did not prepare fully like I should have, and probably did not have it set up for you all as panel members to feel good about what you're hearing today. But I would also say that when you look at the application, it just first glance, it is not very clear what was being asked. So that is something we do need to work on internally. Okay, and does anybody have a question for the for any of the members from Northwest Arkansas Classical Academy?
Madam Chair, let me ask a question as it relates to the building or the land, I guess is what we're talking about. Has that been vetted by the department, and is the department supportive of that purchase?
This is Mary Claire. So typically when charter schools are going to incur debt, they're required to submit to the Secretary of Education or the Commissioner a debt request approval. We have not received one from Responsive Ed yet for this. My understanding is that they were waiting to get approval to move forward before they entered into negotiations to incur the debt. At that time, we do review the contract and make sure finance will review it to make sure that from a fiscal standpoint, it makes sense. And then I will also review them to make sure that all the required contract language is in the whatever instrument they're using to incur the debt. We have not done that for Responsive Ed yet, but we can't do it until we have a copy of the proposed contract.
Okay. Maybe then a follow-up question with the school system. And you got a piece of property that has come to you with a good offer, I guess a good price offer. Would it be possible for you all to bring this request back next month and still have, without losing the deal, I guess is the question?
Yeah, at this point, no, sir, I don't believe so. I believe that we had really until the end of July to go ahead and move forward with that. And also, we have our finance director also would like to make a comment.
I would like to point out that the debt that you're referring to would not be a debt for this campus. This purchase would be made by Responsive Education, and the campus would be leasing the building from them. The lease would also contain the appropriate termination clauses where this wouldn't be an extended lease that would qualify as this debt. So.
Okay, this is Mary Claire. Any lease that's over a year, even if it has a cancellation clause, has to be approved. So you and I might want to have a conversation about when it's necessary to have your debt approved after the meeting.
And obviously, we're going to do everything, whatever we have to do, whatever takes place to make sure that we're doing everything the appropriate way and that everything is transparent as far as what we're going to be doing with the purchase of the property and following all the guidelines that are required by the state to make sure we're doing that. And as we've said, as Mary Claire stated, this is something that to go forward, we would want to make sure that we were okay going forward instead of doing all the work, doing the contracts, and then not being able to move forward because we didn't have the approval of the panel to do that.
So Ms. Hyatt and Ms. Webb, as far as the application itself and the request that has been made, all of the steps up until this point have been followed. Is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Ms. Hyatt, this would be a typical request then, is what I'm hearing?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, thank you. Mr. Rogers, do you have additional questions? No? Okay, so panel, if we don't have any additional questions, I will entertain a motion, or if we need to have any additional discussion.
I'd just like to make a comment. This has been a good discussion. That I'm just going to start from the basis of my decision making. One, I always start off with kids. Kids are being educated. They have a wait list of 100 some kids, 800. Was it 800? Over 800 kids on the wait list. So they're going to have to do something. And so I don't think there's much of an option. I see a demand for the services from parents and from students. So we're going to get a second bite at the apple when they come back from the debt standpoint. And if things are not in order, then we can make the necessary adjustments then. So those are just my comments on kind of where we are in the process. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Williams. Okay, would anyone like to bring a motion to the table?
I'll make a motion to approve the increase in enrollment, increase the cap, and also to approve the purchase of the land as requested.
Okay, I have a motion by Mr. Baldwin to approve the increase in the cap and also the addition of the campus. Is that what was the request? Moving forward?
Yes.
Okay.
Second.
I have a second by Dr. Kramers, and I will call the roll just to be sure we get everyone on record. Mr. Rogers?
No.
Dr. Kramers?
Aye.
Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Newton?
Aye.
And Mr. Baldwin?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Congratulations, your request has been approved, and our office will follow up then with you on the next steps. Thank you all for being with us today.
Thank you very much. We appreciate the panel's consideration.
Thank
We
you.
appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, panel, we have one additional item that remaining on the agenda, and this is an amendment by the Academic Center for Excellence in the Cabot School District. So we have, I believe, Dr. Tony Thurman and also Aaron Randolph from the district. Is that correct, Dr. Thurman?
Yes, thank you.
Okay.
First of all, thanks for hearing our request this morning. And Mr. Randolph will be joining me.
Okay. If I can go ahead and swear you both in, is there anyone else from the district?
That will be all.
Okay. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
I do.
Okay. Thank you, and you may begin your presentation.
Thank you very much, panel, and we appreciate you hearing us out. As Dr. Thurman said, we're very thankful to have this opportunity, and as many of the other requests that have come through today, really this is in response to COVID and all the demands and requests from our stakeholders to have more of a digital option for us to work with our students. And we're grateful for the blended learning and the Ready for Learning opportunity that DESE has put forward. And so we're implementing a lot of those strategies and trying to do what we can to provide the best educational opportunity for our students. And one of the things that we got back, we actually sent a survey out, similar to a number of other districts, to poll our stakeholders. And so if you would like to, I'd like to share the results that we got from that. This was an initial survey we sent out actually in early June to talk to our parents and our guardians and figure out what exactly that they would like to see, and would they even be interested in looking at a digital option for their students. What was that available? And we had been talking about, just options that we had. And we had, so again, we have over 10,400 students in our district. And you can see here that we had almost 4,700 responses to this survey. Now, this survey was not one for one. That is, it was not a survey result for every student. This was just families. And so we felt like we had a really good amount of feedback from our community on this. And what we found was, of that 4,700 families, that we had 1,278 that said that they would be interested in a digital option for their student. And so that really pushed us down this path to figure out how we can provide this opportunity for our students. The Academic Center of Excellence has been fantastic. We are up for a renewal, I believe, next year. And so we knew that, we were looking at some different things there and felt like this was an opportunity that we could help our secondary students specifically. We recognize that the APEX program that we've used curriculum-wise with those with students in ACE has been very successful, and we've been able to see student growth through that. And we have a great campus and a great administration team and faculty already in place that are comfortable with digital learning, that have been doing this distance learning for a number of years and facilitating some on-site instruction. And so for us, from the district office, we felt like that the perfect opportunity for our secondary students that did want to pursue digital learning was to open up more enrollment at ACE. And so that's where the request for the enrollment cap going from 500 to 1,000 students is reflective of the fact that we wanted to allow a little bit more space for those students. And you can see here on the screen, when we broke down, we've actually sent out 2 weeks ago, we sent out a follow-up survey and asking parents to actually commit to being a part of this. And of those response, we can see that we have in the secondary, so 7th through 12th grade, we have 104 students in junior high, 55 in 9th grade, and right now 190 students at the high school and currently at our ACE and ALE campus. And so between that, we felt like the 500 student mark really allowed us to add those students in, continue to see ACE as it stands right now in the traditional conversion charter program grow, but we would just have another pathway for students that wanted a completely digital option of learning. And that was really what spurred us to come in and request this amendment to the charter itself. I'd be happy to entertain any questions on that or whatever the panel might decide.
Okay. If you don't mind, let's go ahead and stop the screen sharing unless there's additional information you need to see. And we can always go back to any of the data that you shared, so thank you for that. Okay, well, I'll go ahead and we'll just start with panel questions. And Dr. Kramers, we'll start with you.
I just want to be clear, I understand the two pathways. Are these two pathway options for students that are ALE students, or this is for any cabot? I just want to make sure I'm clear on who the students would be within this new digital pathway. Because ALE, right now ACE is ALE. So I just want to be clear with this portion who these students will be.
So this pathway, this digital pathway would be for students that opt in to enroll in this digital pathway through ACE. This would not be the traditional students that is a part of the ALE setting.
Do you have follow-up?
I'm going to think for a few minutes.
Okay, we'll come back to Dr. Kramers. Okay, Mr. Baldwin?
No questions.
Dr. Williams?
What is Cabot's overall enrollment district?
Sir, we've been running about 10,400. We were growing fast for a few years and we've stabilized. So with K-12, about 10,400 and about 300 pre-K students. So about 10,700 when you add in that pre-K group.
Okay. And this is the only virtual option that the kids currently have in the district?
No, sir. We actually we've provided a traditional setting with a blended learning environment. We have the ACE option for students as well. And we have a purely digital environment that we're also offering for our students during this situation. So there's actually 3 different options for students. The ACE pathway is a little different, and we really push that a lot because it does require that the students meet with a teacher on a regular basis. And we do feel like for many of our students, this is very advantageous, but it is still aligned very much to the digital academy. The only difference in the 2 programs are that we, through the ACE program, there is a required seat time where they actually meet with the teacher to monitor their progress, take assessments, and those types of situations. So 2 different pathways.
Mm-hmm. So how do you envision this working during COVID times? Is there anything different that you need to be doing with the ACE now, or is it just with increased enrollment? I'm just trying to get a clarity with the number of options that you have.
Yeah.
Yes, sir. The interesting thing about ACE is the students are scheduled in, so they can space the kids out, and it's more one-on-one. When we have a group of kids come in, they can sit down with a teacher, and if they're having certain problems in an area, of course, we're using a platform like most everyone else would be. We're using Apex. So as long as they're making progress on their own, they don't have to have that close contact. So basically, it gives us an option where if they need more intense support, they can still come in and get that. Really, it comes down, it's very neat because the kids can come in as much as they need to get that on-site support through certified teachers in whatever content area. So I really like this option even more than that's a digital option, especially for those kids who struggle academically in one subject or another.
Outstanding. It sounds like a great program. I was just trying to distinguish between the different options, and this almost would be the ideal digital model for all districts to have at least some face time with students.
We're actually I'm getting ready to do a video this afternoon, and a lot of parents are choosing the digital option, and I'm trying to get them to understand that this is really just what you said. It's a great option because as long as our kids are doing great, they're fine. But we can set up a situation, even if they're concerned about the on-site issue, we can make it one-on-one with a teacher where they just come in and have an appointment and just get some help on some tutorial on whatever they need to do. So it really is the very best option. And we're very fortunate to have this set up already in our district.
And I would say also to that point, Dr. Thurman, and one thing that we've had to work really hard on is to make sure that parents understand with this digital option that it's not going to be, the AMI scenario that we had in the spring, where there was a lot of review and a lot of things that we were just trying to keep things moving forward. But in fact, from day one, there's going to be, good core instruction happening for our students.
Okay, thank you.
So I think Dr. Kramer's is this helping to answer your question a little more fully?
It is. I guess the only thing that's, one last follow-up would be, what is it that makes it need to be within the district conversion charter versus outside of the district conversion charter?
So go ahead, Dr. Thurman.
You can go ahead. I'm Dr. Kramer's. I'm trying to understand your question. You're kind of hard to understand, but you're very easy to understand. You're just hard to hear today.
My soft voice.
So I will go ahead and say something to address your earlier question. Is ALE is under the umbrella for our ACE? You're exactly right. I think that was a question you were asking. Mm-hmm. And if you remember, a couple of years ago, we actually expanded the ACE program because ACE is so flexible. We had a group of kids that really needed to be on site all day. So we opened a satellite campus. It's actually on our high school. And that's listed in the amendment request as one of our approvals from a few years ago. So our ACE has the ACE program, and that has the ALE umbrella. Also, we also have the ACE North program, which is on the high school campus. We had a lot of kids that just did not do well with a flexible environment. We needed to keep them under our thumb all day, and parents liked the flexibility of the online learning where they could do some things at home. So we have the ACE North program under this umbrella as well, where they're actually on campus all day. But when they come through their core classes, they're under the APEX system with teacher support. But a lot of our students really like this too, because they can go out immediately onto our campus and go to choir, to Agri, they can go to broadcasting, to RLTC. So those two programs work in concert with each other. And a lot of our kids that start out in ACE North on campus actually transition to ACE as they get older because they don't need as many electives, and it provides more options for them. A lot of those kids have kids already, or they have to have jobs to take care of themselves. So I hope that kind of understands the overarching picture of ACE and what we offer in the school district for those who didn't already know that.
Thank you. Much clarity for me. Thank you.
And Dr. Kramers, I would say that where this with a conversion charter versus say it was just a part of another campus that we use that, a digital platform. Again, it comes back to us that we have a building and we have a staff that is comfortable with this model, that has been using this, on, minimum of 9 hours a week. Students have been on campus. And so we felt like this was an opportunity for us to really emphasize the skills that were already in place, as opposed to trying to get additional staff and a whole nother principal and a whole nother building on board. We could simply bring people into that model and adapt it. And Mrs. Lair's our principal there, and she's fired up and ready to see what we can do with this.
Ms. Newton, do you have questions?
I don't have a question, I have a comment, and it's a little cliche that I hate about thinking out of the box, but I think you guys have really done that. This is the well thought out comprehensive plan. I think that actually shows how much thought you've given to serving students of variety of diversity, a diverse approach to serving students that are in the midst of this a pandemic, and assuring parents that their concerns and their anxieties around their student learning will be addressed. So I congratulate you, and I think it's a great proposal.
Thank you.
Okay, my only questions, I was just glancing through the proposal, and you've got a couple of waivers that are here, and so I'm wondering about, are these new waivers that you're seeking? Are they just updates to waivers that are already available through your ACE program? And just wanted you to talk a little bit about the waivers you're requesting.
So the specific waivers that we're requesting for the student load for class sizes, and then also just the overall student load, those are new waivers that, again, with this being a purely digital class or digital option, we wanted to have the most flexibility that we could in staffing. And I'll just as an example, Dr. Pfeiffer, we have 2 students that I've dealt with their parents right now that are in an accelerated pathway, and they would be taking algebra as 7th graders. And so they would be doing this on campus if they were at the junior highs. Well, we have this opportunity if they choose to go digitally, and we have a group of accelerated algebra students that we may not have enough students to fill, to justify staffing a complete position for 25 seats in an algebra class. But what we can do in this is that we could have someone have a section of algebra with 10 students, and then they can also take on a section of geometry, algebra 2, so on and so forth. And that just gives us more flexibility with staffing and scheduling. And that's where those requests come in from that regard. Those are not things that we currently have in place for the charter, but that would be in place specifically for the digital pathway.
Have you had feedback from your teachers or your board about these additional waivers?
In fact, we were talking staffing this morning, Dr. Thurman and a group of us, and we've got, I've been amazed at how many secondary teachers want to be a part of it. And, their big question, honestly, has been, when I say, okay, you may have 200 students, you may be teaching 6 different classes. Are you okay with that? And they're like, absolutely. If I'm doing this purely digital, that I can organize things, I can work with groups of students, they're not batting an eye. We've tried to be very open and transparent with our staff in that, and it hasn't slowed them down at all.
Okay, panel, do you have any additional questions? Okay, Ms. Hyatt, was there anything else that we needed to consider?
I just want to clarify one thing on their second waiver request, which is the rules governing special needs funding. They've asked for sections 4.03.3 through 4.03.2.2.1. I think that should be 4.03.2 through 4.03.2.2.1, which all has to do, and I'm sorry for all the numbers, but that all has to do with student teacher ratios. 4.03.3, which they've cited in their request, has to do with professional development and in-service training for ALE personnel, which I don't think they're requesting.
No.
So if they could just clarify, I think it was just a typo.
It is.
Okay, so it should be 4.03.2 through 4.03.2.2.1, just for the record. And then my second question is, will this waiver only apply to your ALE program? It's not for any students outside of your ALE program?
So are we talking about the specific ALE, the special needs funding?
Well, so there are provisions that have to do with PE class size in a different rule that would apply to any student who's not in your ALE program. So what I'm asking is, are you also going to need this waiver for kids who are not in your ALE program? Or are you just asking for this waiver for kids in your ALE program?
This would be specific to this program. And again, that the ALE, and as Dr. Thurman mentioned, our ALE is under that ACE umbrella. And so we wanted to make sure that was included in there in terms of that funding piece. But this waiver will not be used at any other campus or any other spot. It will only be specific to that our conversion charter.
Does the conversion charter have pieces that are not an ALE piece?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay.
Absolutely.
Then the charter will need to add section 7.01 and 7.11, 7.10 and 7.11 in the rules governing nutrition and physical activity standards and body mass index for age assessment protocols, which also contain that class size piece for PE. And I apologize, I should have caught that on the front end when you submitted it. If you'll just say that you would also like to request those pieces, and that'll be fine for the record.
Thank you for your guidance. We would like to include that.
That fixes all my issues.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. And I think that if panel members have any questions, that was just about, we have a couple of different sections where class sizes are detailed, and class sizes for physical education are in a separate rule from the class size teaching load. Okay. All right. If there are not any questions or overall comments by the panel, then I will entertain a motion to approve this amendment request.
I move to approve.
Second.
Okay, I have a motion by Dr. Kramers and a second by Dr. Williams. Is there any discussion? Okay, we'll do a roll call vote. If I can find my sheet here so I can keep up with it. All right, Mr. Rogers. Aye. Dr. Kramers?
Aye.
Dr. Williams?
Aye.
Ms. Newton?
Aye.
And Mr. Baldwin?
Aye.
Okay, the motion passes. Congratulations, your amendment request is approved. Thank you for being with us and answering our questions today.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Pfeiffer and the panel.
Okay, Ms. Webb, is that the last item on our agenda?
It is. Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Panel members, is there, do you have anything that we need to discuss? Let's see, the next meeting of the charter panel will be?
August 18th and 19th. It will probably be at least a day and a half due to open enrollment charter applications, and we have 7 of those.
Okay, so 7 open enrollment applications. And I think that the plan is for next month to try to go ahead and move back to being on site if possible. Ms. Webb will be working with the team here to see if we can set up the room so that we'll have the maximum physical distancing that's needed. We'll be working on looking to see, as far as any guests coming in or things like that, how we would do that and be able to meet health department guidelines. We may have there may be an issue where some of you may not be able to join us, and we could continue to do that by Zoom. But if possible, we're going to try to have folks back in the building here as much as possible. So any thoughts about that or questions? We appreciate everyone being patient with us on sound issues today. I know it is harder. It's a lot harder to do by Zoom sometimes than it is when we're able to be in a room and able to gauge reactions or to take care of questions a little bit easier. Okay, well, if nobody has anything further, then I will accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay, got a motion? And already a vote from Mr. Rogers. I will take that as a second and a vote, affirmative vote. Everyone in favor, aye.
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 Okay, have a great rest of the day. Thank you all.
All right, we'll see you. Thank you.